What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on the game that I recently watched on Christmas Day. It was the Spurs and the Thunder, right? And so the Spurs won again against the Thunder. I think this is like the third time in a row they have beat them, beat OKC. And so now something, I made a video about this a few, like the last time the Spurs beat the Thunder, and I said that they had the blueprint, right? And so this Christmas Day game just really confirmed it for me. I see that OKC struggles with size and athleticism when they have to go up. When OKC has to go against size and athleticism, they struggle, right? When they are the bigger team on the court and have more athleticism, that's when they have their success. So all last year during the playoffs and stuff like that, they had the bigger team. They had Chet Holmgren protecting the rim while Williams and Shea Gilgris, they could kind of take chances on defense, right? And that makes them even better defenders. They probably really good or a little bit above average defenders, but when you have a 7-footer back there protecting the rim, then that makes you an even better defender because the 7-footer really covers up, some of the mistakes that the guys out there in the backcourt make, right? So it worked out good for OKC last year. But this year, they don't have as much size and athleticism or the advantage in size and athleticism when it comes to the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama is what, he's 7 feet 5 inches tall. Then they have, the Spurs have other guys that are really tall and lanky. And so it is hard for OKC really to find a shot. Shea he usually shoot his mid-range jumper. Like he's able to get inside the lane and shoot his mid-range jumper and score at will. But because of the size and athleticism of the Spurs, they pushed Shea even further away from the basket, whereas though he's not getting the looks that he's used to getting, getting those closer shots that he's used to getting. So he's shooting a little bit further from the rim. He's not shooting a whole bunch of threes, not like the rest of his teammates. So, and the rest of his teammates don't even look like they even trying to get in the paint or they're trying to, go to the board because you got Victor Wembanyama down there, protecting. So they are now have turned into a 3-point shooting team. And so that's their problem. They got to find a way to get in there. They got to be more physical with teams like this, especially somebody like Wembanyama. You got to really be physical with him. That's the only advantage, I think. The only way you can beat him, you got to go directly at him with somebody who's not as tall as he is, but somebody who's strong, right? That's what's going to be that's what going to be his kryptonite. You got to go at him with somebody who's tall. And early in the season, I already thought that Houston would be able to challenge OKC because with Kevin Durant, a really good mid-range shooter, he can get his shot. Then you got Shangoon, who is I think Shangoon would be able to get his shot against OKC too, right? So I already thought that Houston would be able to challenge them, but OKC has gotten exposed as far as like what they're comfortable with. They're uncomfortable with guys who are taller and have that athleticism. And so now they have to go back to the drawing board. OKC do. They have to go back to the drawing board and find ways for them to get easy shots, good looks at the basket, and be able to like get into a rhythm as far as scoring. Now, on the defensive end, when they go up against longer, lankier teams, they're getting the same things done to them that they did to other people, right? The Spurs got just about any shot they want against OKC, because they were getting open 3 pointers, they was getting the mid range, and Wembanyama is playing closer to the basket. So what OKC have to do is they have to really now tighten up on defense, because you can't let somebody have easy baskets at one end, and then at the other end they're making you work for your baskets. It can't be like that. So OKC is going to have to, even though they're really good defensively, they're going to really now have to step it up and make teams, or at least make OKC, I mean the Spurs, you got to make the Spurs work harder to score. So then they're going to have to play against the Rockets. They're going to have to make it harder for the Rockets to score. And then you got Denver with the Jokers. If the Joker get any more help, that Denver team is just really going to be. I think that because of what the Joker brings to the table, man, and I'm not even a big Joker fan, but this guy, man, what he brings to the table is like, it's going to be hard for anybody, Wembanyama, Holmgren, uh, or whoever the Rockets got, Shangoon. I think it's gonna be hard for anybody really to slow the Joker down, man. So everybody right now is looking at OKC as as a team to beat in the West, and which I could kind of agree. But I think the Joker is going to be the dark horse. If everybody, if Gordon is healthy for Denver, and you get the what's the guard name down there? Murray. If he's healthy for Denver, boy, oh boy, they're gonna be tough. And Gordon, he plays tough defense, and Gordon is physical, right? That West is gonna just be a beast though. But I think that OKC, they need to really they need like a really good power forward that can bump and bruise down there in the paint. That Because the Spurs really, their athleticism and that length poses problems for them, for OKC, man. And so they've been exposed. It's not over with for OKC, but I just think that OKC really need to tighten up on defense. When somebody is making it hard for you to score at one end, then you got to return the favor. OKC got to return the favor. They got to make it hard for the Spurs to score. The Spurs just got any shot they want, and they can't allow that. And so I'm looking to see what type of adjustments that coaching staff for OKC can make, because they're really having a problem with this. And this is what really, in my opinion, is going to define a championship team, right? Because you can look at last year's championship with the Thunder as they kind of snuck up on people, you know. And now that teams have made the adjustment, teams have found out what their kryptonite is. Now OKC got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they need, what pieces they need to bring in, or what adjustments they need to make in order for them to be able to score consistently. Because if Shea Gilgris is not getting the shots that he's used to, then their offense just looks totally different. Like I said, the Spurs really just turned OKC into a perimeter shooting team, which that's not their game. They're opportunistic when it comes to shooting threes. Like, they'll shoot threes because they're open, because Shea has penetrated, and then he can dish back out to Holmgren, shoot threes. Then you got Williams, who shoot threes. And so they're opportunistic when they come for the three, but they don't really look for the three as a part of their offense. Their offense is Shea penetrating and then dishing out to the open man. So now OKC got to go back to the drawing board and they got to figure out how to um, really score consistently on a team that is more athletic than them. And my thing is they need to get physical. They need somebody and see, this is what I like about basketball, you know what I mean? Because is it's evolving. And I said this early too, like this basketball is evolving back into what it was in the 80s and the 90s, like a more physical game where you got power forwards in there to play against somebody like Wembanyama, to beat up, just to be more physical with him, like beat him up, and make him earn everything that he get, because he just basically he's using his athleticism and his size to dominate. You got Chet Holmgren, for OKC, but he's not, and he's a really good basketball player, but he's not as good as Wembanyama, right? He's almost there in my opinion, but he's not as good as Wembanyama, and that is the difference, in my opinion, between the Spurs and the and OKC. Wembanyama is that difference maker. I think that if OKC goes out and gets somebody like a really tough power forward, then that will be, that'll kind of offset what this guy Wembanyama bring to the table, because you got to be physical with him. You're not gonna get, you know what I mean. You're not gonna get nobody who's taller than him, So you got to get more physical. That's just why I think that in the East, when you got the Detroit Pistons, right? They are a physical. They play tough defense and they're physical. So Detroit, in my opinion, would give both of these teams. They would give OKC a hard way to go, and they would give the Spurs a hard way to go, because they got the guy Duran and they got the guy Stewart, right? And these guys are defensive power forward and defensive center, the best, in the league at that position. And so don't be surprised if the Pistons go all the way, and if they meet either one of these teams in the West. I believe the Pistons can beat these teams in the West, just because they're constructed and they're built like an old school 80s and 90s type of team, whereas though they have balance as far as their defense, and they got those physical guys who really going to defend the rims. And you know what I mean? They're gonna use those fouls. They're gonna beat guys like Holmgren up. They're gonna beat what's the guy, Wembanyama. They're gonna beat them up. Not that they're gonna stop these guys, but they're gonna make them earn everything they get, the way they're constructed, right? And it's not one guy for the Pistons, but it's, they got a couple guys in there that are really strong physical guys who who's going to really contest these guys, because that's the way you beat these guys. But yeah, I do think that the Spurs right now have the Thunder. They got their number, and so the Thunder got to go back to the drawing board, try to figure this thing out, and that's my take on it. So with that being said, man, y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.